Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith, this time breaking down the comments of Ilia Topuria about 1, moving up to lightweight, B, being retired by age 30, and C, his choice of opponent. Now, this was an interview done on a Spanish radio station where he was talking about this, and he said, basically, I'm done with featherweight. I'm not that motivated to defend my title anymore at 145. I want to move up to 55. Islam Makhachev is, of course, defending his title in January against Arman Tsarukyan. And he's targeting April or May, so he wants to fight Charles Oliveira. First off, let's start with the broad, general idea of this. And to me, Teddy Atlas said it once about Mike Tyson, about whether or not he was a truly great fighter. And he said, greatness requires longevity. Mike didn't have that. For people who remember, Mike was champion from 86 to 90. He had 4 good years, which in, boxing at the time was good, not great, okay? Larry Holmes held the title for a long time. Muhammad Ali held the title for a long time. It's his ability to hold it for a long time that makes somebody great. Muhammad Ali was a factor in the heavyweight division for 16 years. The idea that I'm a great fighter, but I'm done with 145. Now, he hasn't indicated any physical problem making 145. He's not a massive 45er. He's had no trouble making weight that I can see. He's not a small 45er. But this idea that certain guys try and make it, you see it taking a lot out of him. Conor McGregor looked terrible at 45. His last couple fights there. It's this idea that I don't get the feeling that it's something physical. I think it's the idea that there's only really a rematch left with Alexander Volkanovski, and then Diego Lopez, who, has earned it. He's beaten some good guys, but it's not a must-see TV, gigantic pay-per-view selling fight. It just isn't. So, I don't really have interest in 145 anymore. You've had 1 title defense. Yeah, it was a great one. Yeah, you knocked out Max Holloway. Great performance. Hats off to you. But once again, this idea of true greatness, and I'd love to hear in the comment section what you guys think, requires longevity. You have to have those title defenses where the numbers become undeniable. And the idea that, I had 1, I'm ready to move up. Yes, the division isn't that interesting right now. I think personally right now, as I'm sitting here, if he has a rematch with Alexander Volkanovski, it's the same outcome. I think he knocks him out. If he rematches Holloway, I think he knocks him out. I don't think there's anybody right now on the scene that can beat him. I don't look at what's coming up and going, oh man, this guy might be a problem. I don't see that right now. It's just this idea, once again, the way I grew up, Marvin Hagler had 11 title defenses in 7 years. Only 1 guy, by the way, in those 11 title defenses made it the distance. Anybody? Roberto Duran was the only guy to go the distance in the successful title defenses of Marvelous Marvin Hagler. So it's this idea of they weren't all great names, right? There were some great names, right? Tommy Hearns, John Mugabe, and of course Roberto Duran. But the idea that whoever it was, man, I'm the champ. Come get it. I'm going to hold this thing as long as I possibly can. There was an honor, in a sense, to being champ for a long time. And so I'm kind of the school that to be truly great, you have to do it for a while. But I understand, you have a little window to make all the money you can. I'm going to have a couple big fights and then I'm out of here. I get that. I don't see a lot of fighters doing it. A lot of fighters say I want to be out by a certain time, and yet they keep going and going and going. So I'll believe it when I see it. You think you're going to get out at 30. So, number one, there's the idea that to be great, you have to be in it for a long time. And he's not. And so it does take away from his legacy. We're not going to see those title defenses that really make somebody great. The second part of it, how does his style translate at 155 pounds? Depends on who he fights. Charles Oliveira, I think, is probably the best opponent for him in terms of not a pushover, right? He's not a scrub. I'm not saying an easy opponent. My point is, he has the kind of style that is accurate. He's powerful. He's dynamic. He's versatile. Can do a lot of different things. Strong for 45. He's not a huge 55er. But 2 things he doesn't rely on that don't translate well. He doesn't rely on his ability to manhandle people. He has manhandled people, most notably in the Bryce Mitchell fight. He just beasted him. He's a strong dude. But he isn't a steamroller kind of guy where I'm bigger and stronger than everybody at 45, I'm going to go up to 55. Well, they're a lot bigger. You're not going to be able to impose your physical will on guys like you could at the lower weight class. His striking I like because it's accurate. He's not necessarily the kind of heavy-handed where you rely on your knockout power all the time to finish people. And my example is always Robbie Lawler. At 170, he could knock you out with one shot, really, really heavy-handed, and because he wasn't the most accurate puncher on earth. At 185, he couldn't do that, and he was a mediocre 185er because his power just didn't translate up those 15 pounds. It just didn't. And guys like Tim Kennedy can take that shot and they're going to be right in your face. He fought Babalu. You're like, dude, you're not going to knock those guys out with one shot with your welterweight power. And so it didn't really work. Topuria is much more in the Conor McGregor mold in that it's about accuracy and timing and precision. He is a powerful striker, but he doesn't rely on his heavy-handedness backing everybody up. So his style might translate pretty well. And Charles Oliveira is the right opponent because Charles isn't a big, physical, monstrous, takedown-heavy 155er, okay? You don't want to fight the Khabibs of the world, the Makhachevs of the world, who impose their strength and size and make it a wrestling battle. You don't want to fight those guys, right? BJ Penn versus GSP back in the day, their rematch. If you remember that one, GSP went, I'm taking you down the whole time. Right? We're not standing and banging. I'm not making this about technique. I'm going to be bigger and stronger and impose my will. And he just beat BJ Penn up. Beat him to death. And BJ Penn was at the height of his powers and really, really technical. So if you stay away from those guys, right, you can do well. Charles Oliveira does have fantastic jiu-jitsu, but it's not a Damian Maia, Rickson Gracie, heavy positional Khabib kind of submission game. He doesn't have that. He's real dynamic and real fluid and great transitions and very fast submissions, but it's not the kind of thing where, once he gets you down, he really imposes his size on you. He imposes his speed on you. And Topuria has a chance to use his own speed to counter that. Also, Charles is not a great wrestler. He's good for MMA. He's not, once again, the Khabib, the kind of guy who's going to just maul you and take you down and take you down and take you down. He doesn't really fight that way. He's a dynamic striker, which Topuria can handle, and then he has really good jiu-jitsu without great wrestling. So if Topuria just thinks defensively and is like, I'm going to keep his fight on the feet, he can do that. He's not facing a guy who's so much bigger and more powerful that can impose his physical will. So I think Charles Oliveira is a good selection for first opponent. Once again, not that he's an easy fight. It's that he doesn't bring those things that are really hard when you move up weight classes, if that makes sense to everybody. So I think Charles Oliveira is a really good choice. Can he be champion at 55? One of the issues, and I think Dustin Poirier is a really good example of this, is a guy, and John Jones going from 205 to heavyweight, say what you want about it, who took his time to really put on that lean muscle. One of the issues I have, we're in December, he wants to fight in May, April. He's going to, what you can't do, let me back up a little bit, is a 145-pounder that doesn't cut weight is a 55er. That's not how you want to do it. You want to be as muscular and lean as a natural 55er, and then, which, puts you maybe like 170, and then you shred down to 55. So you got to put on that lean muscle. It takes a lot of time in the gym. Then you have to learn to train with it. You have to learn to spar with it. You have to learn to get hit. You have to learn to to hit and get hit with that extra muscle on. It's you're getting kind of a new body, and you got to learn how it works. And too many fighters, I think that was Max Holloway's problem going to 55. He just kind of kept the same frame. Poirier talked about going from 45 to 55 and really taking the time to put on good lean muscle because you fight differently with that stuff. You fight differently. Your gas tank isn't the same. All these things are different. So I don't know when he started doing this, if he's made this decision now. That's not a ton of time between December and May to put on that lean muscle. So I'm a little worried about him just kind of going in with what he has, and that might not be enough against a guy like Charles Oliveira, who's very experienced, does have knockout power, and is really good on the ground. So it's the preparation for this. I'm not sure if it's there. As a fan, I would rather see him rematch with Volk. I think he beats Volk, right? So you're going to get the payday. It's a big name. Volk deserves the rematch, blah, 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 blah. And after that, going, all right, I'm moving on. But could he be champ at 55? The problem is Makhachev doesn't have a style that lends itself well to Topuria's skill set. He's not going to stand and trade with him that long. There isn't long before you're going for those rugged takedowns, and you're taking on a much bigger guy, a guy with a really good gas tank. And if you haven't adjusted really well to 55, it's going to be a problem. Charles doesn't have a style that's going to make you really regret being at 55. He's dynamic and fast and great jiu-jitsu, and that's wonderful, but it's the same at 45 and 55, okay? He can crack. He has 55 knockout power for sure. But Islam has that almost like 170 style where people go, dude, he's as strong as a really good welterweight. And so he'll wear you down and wear you out, and that's hard to do going up a weight class. So he's going to have trouble being champion. I'd have to see him against Charles Oliveira and see how he looks and all that stuff. I've seen ambition ruin fighters. And I know fighters are supposed to be ambitious. We all love that they kind of reach past what they can get, right? That their reach exceeds their grasp, as the expression goes. BJ Penn is probably the best example. This guy fought Machida at light heavyweight. And you're like, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you obsessed with always just fought Renzo at 185, fought Rodrigo Gracie, I think that was 185, if I remember correctly. He beat Renzo and Rodrigo. But the idea that dude, just stay at 55 and be the best to ever do it. Why do you always want to go up and move up? And it's killed fighters who had a lot of talent. I would hate to see that happen to Ilia Topuria. This is a guy that I thought was going to be champion when I first saw him in the UFC. I was really impressed with what I saw. I've picked him in some upsets to keep marching along. And to go like, no, I want to be great at 55. When you have one title defense at 45, I think is being a little ambitious, especially early, call it my age, but I would love to see him get those 3, 4, 5 title defense at 45. And so when we talk about the greatest of all time in the weight class, we talk about him. If he has those flash in the pan, really great for a second, like Conor McGregor, for example, that's not as strong of a legacy to me. Now, speaking of Conor McGregor, and I love this, in response to what Ilia Topuria said in the radio show, Conor McGregor tweeted, he's deleted it since, "Here's the truth that will hurt all the little wannabe nobodies. Fighting was too easy for me. I'd done it all by 27 years old. You never defended a title. I don't want to hear that you did it all. You never defended a title. That is part of what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do is defend the title. Didn't defend it at 45, didn't defend it at 55. So this idea that I was bored because I had done it all, you never defended a title. And that's what the great ones do. And you never did that, which is why when we talk about legacy in 2024, coming up on 2025, about the greatest of all time, I don't think Conor makes the cut to even be in the discussion because he never showed us the longevity that makes great champions. And I would hate to see the same thing happen to the legacy of Ilia Topuria because he didn't stick around long enough to let us know. Now, are you excited about it? Let me know in the comments section. Should he move up to 55? Should he stay at 45 and get some defenses first? All right, appreciate you. Talk to you soon.